I mean, this woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen.
Gratify your present self. It's a stupid game.
Don't be pretty.
It's science. I don't want reality. Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century. It's science.
Well, it's good to see all you folks here once again. Well, it's Sunday, but it's not really gonna be Sunday for that long. So, we're doing a combined Sunday/Earth Day celebration. Well, with that all said, there's still plenty of doom for us to look at. Somehow, we'll fight against it all and prevail. Now buckle up, Space Fams. It's time for a little journey into the abyss. Alright, to start this Earth Day off, let's watch this little Ed animation from 3 weeks ago. What Earth in 2050 could look like, by Shannon Odell.
While we're already feeling the devastating effects of human culture.
By the way, since it's Sunday Funday, as you can see, you have everyone. I'm giving them away for free today. You deserve them. You all deserve it. So here we go. Sunday Funday/Earth Day.
Climate change. Governments continue to fall short on making and executing emissions pledges that would help thwart further warming. So, what will our world look like in the next 30 to 80 years if we continue on the current path? While it's impossible to know exactly how the next decade will unfold, scientists and climate experts have made projections, factoring in the current state of affairs. This future we're about to describe is bleak, but remember, there's still time to ensure it doesn't become our reality. It's 2050. We've blown past the 1.5 degree target that world leaders promised to stick to. The Earth has warmed 2 degrees since the 1800s, when the world first started burning fossil fuels in mass scale. Reports on heat waves and wildfires regularly fill the evening news. Summer days exceed 40 degrees in London and 45 degrees in Delhi, as extreme heat waves are now 8 to 9 times more common. These high temperatures prompt widespread blackouts as power grids struggle to keep up with the energy demands needed to properly cool homes. Ambulance sirens blare through the night, carrying patients suffering from heat stroke, dehydration, and exhaustion. The southwestern United States, southern Africa, and eastern Australia experience longer, more frequent, and more severe droughts. Meanwhile, the Philippines, Indonesia, and Japan face more frequent heavy rainfall as rising temperatures cause water to evaporate faster and trap more water in the atmosphere. As the weather becomes more erratic, some communities are unable to keep pace with rebuilding what's constantly destroyed. Many move to cities where they face housing shortages and a lack of jobs. A resource squeeze is felt in newborn intensive care wards as the rising temperature and air pollution cause higher rates of premature and underweight births. More children develop asthma and respiratory disease, and rates balloon in communities regularly.
Some of these things are already happening, especially the, well, not just especially, but like respiratory disease is up, I know that.
Exposed to forest fire smoke. The global emissions added to the atmosphere each year finally start to level off thanks to government action, but it's decades too late. we failed to reach net zero in time. As a result, by 2100, the Earth has warmed.
Look, none of us want a vault-based future, okay? I'm just going to say that right now.
Another 0.5 to 1.5 degrees. Over half of our remaining glaciers have melted. As the sea heats up, its volume increases due to thermal expansion. Together, this elevates sea level by well over a meter. Entire nations, like the Marshall Islands and Tuvalu, are uninhabitable, as large swaths of their islands are submerged. Some islands, like the Maldives, spend billions building interconnected rafts that house apartments, schools, and restaurants that float above its drowned cities. Resettled climate migrants in Jakarta, Mumbai, and Lagos are forced to abandon their homes once again as rising tides and extreme storms flood buildings and crumble infrastructure. Overall, 250 million people are displaced. Some affluent cities like New York and Shanghai attempt to adapt, elevating buildings and roadways. 10-meter-tall seawalls
These things are already
line the city's
happening to
coast.
some degree.
Children learn about extinct sea life, which
I mean, you know, just saying. There's a buffering? Wait, no, not buffering. Hold the fucking phone. Buffering? This is unacceptable. Is it buffering? This is unacceptable. You move. You're moving? You're making a motion? This isn't a courtroom. Hold on. Oh god, I see the buffering now that I've switched screens. Oh, it's bad. No, it's pretty bad. It's not, you're right. It's not the worst. I've seen worse. It's very true. Does that mean this is optimal? Absolutely not. Let me force quit this. This could be part of the problem. It is still buffering. No, I see it. And I'm fixing it. I'm trying to fix it. What am I gonna do with this computer? The motion passes. With whose votes? How many votes exactly did this get? First off, I'd like to point out that the Galactic UN hasn't even been officially established yet, as is. Yeah, it's definitely lagging still. Not cool, man. Not cool. Back it up and put it out. No, that's not a solution. Nobody do that. Nobody do what he's saying. That is ridiculous. I hate that plan. Wait. It's getting better. It's fixing itself. There we go. I'm liking that. That's looking good. Okay, I think that's better. Even the Earth is buffering. Exactly, it's terrible. It's an improvement, I gotta say. Okay. I mean, it looks better to me. I don't know about anybody else, but doesn't appear to be having the same problems. Would you say that's better, chat? Put a 1 in chat if you would say that's better. Do not cross the streams. This is, well, see. Crossing the streams is apparently a very contentious issue in chat right now. So is it a 1? Is it better? I think it's better. It looks better. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you.
Inhabited the ocean's reefs.
I'm just gonna restart this. I'm gonna restart everything. Pretend that never happened.
While we're already feeling the devastating effects of human-caused climate change, governments continue to fall short on making and executing emissions pledges that would help thwart further warming. So, what will our world look like in the next 30 to 80 years if we continue on the current path? While it's impossible to know exactly how the next decade will unfold, scientists and climate experts have made projections, factoring in the current state of affairs. This future we're about to describe is bleak, but remember, there's still time to ensure it doesn't become our reality. It's 2050. We've blown past the 1.5-degree target that world leaders promised to stick to. The Earth has warmed 2 degrees since the 1800s, when the world first started burning fossil fuels in mass scale. Reports on heat waves and wildfires regularly fill the evening news. Summer days exceed 40 degrees in London and 45 degrees in Delhi, as extreme heat waves are now 8 to 9 times more common. These high temperatures prompt widespread blackouts as power grids struggle to keep up with the energy demands needed to properly cool homes. Ambulance sirens blare through the night, carrying patients suffering from heat stroke, dehydration, and exhaustion. The southwestern United States, southern Africa, and eastern Australia experience longer, more frequent, and more severe droughts. Meanwhile, the Philippines, Indonesia, and Japan face more frequent heavy rainfall as rising temperatures cause water to evaporate faster and trap more water in the atmosphere. As the weather becomes more erratic, some communities are unable to keep pace with rebuilding what's constantly destroyed. Many move to cities where they face housing shortages and a lack of.
So much of this is already happening, in my opinion. Just not at the scale that I think she's trying to suggest with this video.
Jobs. A resource squeeze is felt in newborn intensive care wards as the rising temperature and air pollution cause higher rates of premature and underweight births. More children develop asthma and respiratory disease, and rates balloon in communities regularly exposed to forest fire smoke. The global emissions added to the atmosphere each year finally start to level off thanks to government action, but it's decades too late. We failed to reach net zero in time. As a result, by 2100, the Earth has warmed another 0.5 to 1.5 degrees. Over half of our remaining glaciers have melted. As the sea heats up, its volume increases due to thermal expansion. Together, this elevates sea level by well over a meter. Entire nations, like the Marshall Islands and Tuvalu, are uninhabitable, as large swaths of their islands are submerged. Some islands, like the Maldives, spend billions building interconnected rafts that house apartments, schools, and restaurants that float above its drowned cities. Resettled climate migrants in Jakarta, Mumbai, and Lagos are forced to abandon their homes once again as rising tides and extreme storms flood buildings and crumble infrastructure. Overall, 250 million people are displaced. Some affluent cities like New York and Shanghai attempt to adapt, elevating buildings and roadways. 10-meter-tall seawalls line the city's coasts. Children learn about extinct sea life which once inhabited the ocean's reefs, all of which have vanished thanks to rising surface water temperatures. Grocery prices skyrocket as food and water scarcity touch all communities. Fruits and products long grown in the tropics and subtropics rarely show up on shelves, as intense heat waves paired with increasing humidity make it deadly for farmers to work outdoors. Unpredictable heat waves, droughts, and floods cripple small-scale farmers in Africa, Asia, and South America, who previously produced 1/3 of the world's food. Hundreds of millions of people are pushed into hunger and famine. Climate predictions can feel overwhelming and terrifying, yet many of the experts responsible for these assessments remain optimistic. Since countries have first begun taking steps to lower their emissions, warming projections have shifted downwards. In less than a decade, we've reduced our projected emission rates so that we're no longer on track to hit nearly 4 degrees of warming. Policies that invest in renewable energy sources, cut fossil fuel production, support electric transportation, protect our forests, and regulate industry can help mitigate the worst effects of climate change. But climate experts have also stressed that current policies and pledges don't go far enough in speed or scale. Enacting real change will require bold solutions, innovations, and collective action. There's still time to rewrite our future, and every tenth of a degree counts. For a look at a time when the global community...
Okay. Well, we got through our first video. Good job, everybody. Happy Earth Day. Well, it's really only Earth Day for, what, Greenland and Europe right now, and the Atlantic. But still, we're going to celebrate both Sunday Funday and Earth Day simultaneously. Okay, now America. Real quick, real quick. And yes, gun violence. Someone predicted it earlier in chat. You are not wrong. It's from 3 hours ago. ABC Houston. Woman found shot to death in car in a Leaf area, according to Houston PD.
We do begin with the tragic story out of Alief this afternoon. A woman shot dead in her SUV and the shooter still at large. It happened along 7th Street near South Kirkwood, just off the West Park Tollway. ABC 13's Luke Jones is live there at the scene with the latest information tonight. Luke.
Tom, right back here at the entrance to this parking lot, that's where the woman was parked this afternoon when around 1:15, police say a man walked up to her window and shot her multiple times at close range, then took off in a white Jeep Renegade. Now, the suspect's vehicle. This is actually from a neighbor's surveillance camera. That's the vehicle he fled in and that police are still searching for at this hour. We're told by a witness he heard 2 or 3 gunshots, then saw that Jeep peeling off. He says he and another man rushed to the woman's aid, but it was simply too late. She'd been shot in the chest and the head and succumbed to her injuries before paramedics...
The car is not a Leaf. It's in a place called a Leaf. A-L-I-E-F. Apparently it's near enough to Houston that Houston Police Department covers these crimes in a Leaf. It is weird, though. It's a weird name. I don't blame you for being confused.
For police got here. Police are telling us it's possible the victim and the suspect may have known each other and that the shooting...
I have it turned all the way up right now.
According to the witness statement, just the demeanor of the suspect, it didn't appear to be anything motivated by robbery or anything else. This appeared to be personal.
This one's just quiet as shit. I'm sorry, chat.
Natural conclusion that we can investigate.
Anyway, they haven't caught the person who shot her. They have a ID on a vehicle they believe was used in the crime, but that's all we know. But she was killed. 2 people tried to save her, but were unable to as she was shot in the chest and head. Yeah, I know that video was super quiet. It's not that video. It was at the same volume as the last video, right? It's not me. It's ABC 13 Houston. Blame them. Call them and say, hey, your videos are too fucking quiet, pal. And maybe they'll fix it. But, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Okay, moving on. This one is from ABC Philadelphia from 3 hours ago, where apparently an 18-year-old was shot and killed at Delaware State University.
The Delaware State University campus is closed today and tomorrow following a deadly shooting near a dorm there. It happened just after 1:30 this morning near Warren Franklin Hall, which is a freshman dormitory. Police believe that the 18-year-old woman, who's from Wilmington, and another woman were visiting a friend on campus. Neither woman was a student there. The victim was shot in the chest and killed. School officials have canceled all events on campus for today and say that counseling services will be made available to students.
For fuck's sake. On a Sunday. Yep. I'm pretty sure that's that's what happened. It came out like, what, 3 hours ago? Yeah, so pretty sure. My videos are quiet as a Leaf, ABC Houston? Oh no, ABC Houston. Yeah, yes, they are. You send them an email with that in it. Let them know You suck. Okay, this video will probably be louder. This is from CNN from 5 hours ago. What to expect ahead of opening statements at Trump's criminal trial.
All right, it is the eve of a historic moment in American history. Tomorrow, for the first time, prosecutors will present opening statements in a criminal trial of a former U.S. president. Donald Trump will walk into a Manhattan courtroom tomorrow morning where he will hear the state's case against him. He is facing dozens of charges related to an alleged hush money.
I don't think they were saying that the person who did it was... Maybe I missed that. I think they were talking about how mental health services were being made available to students to cope with it. I don't think that they were blaming the shooting on that. Maybe they were, and I missed it. But that's what I heard.
To adult film actress Stormy Daniels, made before the 2016 election. This is the first of 4 criminal cases against Trump to go to trial. CNN's Marshall Cohen joining us now with more on this. Marshall, walk us through what the trial just might look like.
Hey, Fred, it's history in the making in New York City tomorrow, where Donald Trump will be the first former president of the United States to watch the opening statements in his own criminal trial. So let's just remind everybody how we got here, because we're just a few months away from the 2024 election, but this is all about the 2016 presidential election. Donald Trump facing 34 felony charges. Those are state charges.
Am I losing my mind, or is this guy competing with Anderson Cooper for whiteness right now?
By the top prosecutor, the district attorney in Manhattan. State charges. If he's convicted, he can't pardon himself. The alleged crime is falsifying business records in connection with that hush money payment to Stormy Daniels, which was routed indirectly through the Trump organization. Prosecutors say that they falsified the records on the books there. We have 12 jurors and 6 alternates. That was what last week was all about, whittling down that jury pool to get a seated panel of 12 and 6 alternates. This is expected to go
I did
about
everything
6 weeks,
right,
perhaps.
and they
That means we could have a
indicted me.
verdict this summer. And of course, Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty, and he denies the affair with Stormy Daniels very aggressively. So what are the prosecutors going to be talking about tomorrow? Unfortunately, the viewers at home, you won't be able to watch. You won't even be able to listen. There are no cameras in court. We have an entire team of reporters that will be there and sketch artists to do their best to bring it to life. The prosecutors are going to try to bring this to life by telling a story of what happened in 2016. And they have a bunch of witnesses lined up and ready to go that surely they'll be presenting in the coming days and weeks. Michael Cohen, first and foremost, he's the star witness in many respects. He was Trump's right-hand man, attorney and fixer. He has now turned state's witness, and he is a serious critic of Donald Trump. It was him who paid the money to Stormy Daniels in 2016 to keep her quiet. She never went public with those allegations before the 2016 election, thanks to that hush money payment. There's also Hope Hicks. She is a Trump campaign official. She was part of the scramble behind the scenes in 2016 to prevent more damaging information from coming out against the candidate. Then on the bottom, you have Karen McDougal and David Pecker. McDougal is a former Playboy playmate who also alleged that she had an affair with Donald Trump. And David Pecker, as the head of the National Enquirer, purchased the rights to her story. But they buried it. They never published it, Fred, and that is part of a scheme that prosecutors have called catch and kill.
Seriously, this guy is a strong up-and-comer on being... He's going to take Anderson Cooper over very quickly. Okay, just figured we'd keep ourselves up to date and what do you want to, not even just up to date, but reminded of what's happening with the trial, the details of the trial. As you know, according to them, and according to many actually, the verdict may come down during the summer, meaning, you know, shit might get crazy this summer in terms of like how this election will play out. Because if he winds up being found guilty and put in prison, how's that gonna work? Can you elect somebody from prison? Is that a thing? And if you do they serve their term from prison, or do they get out? Let's hope that doesn't even come to play out in terms of him getting elected. But you get what I'm saying. Like, I'm just trying to think the whole thing through, and it's like, for fuck's sake, how have we even gotten to this place where somebody who is indicted this many times, including for election fraud and for insurrection, right, is somehow still running as the candidate for one of the main parties in the United States? It's fucking oh my god, I just feel like I'm seriously losing my mind right now.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Okay. Let's talk again really quickly about this bill that got passed for the foreign aid to not just only Ukraine and Israel, but to Taiwan as well. This is from ABC News from a day ago regarding that $95 billion foreign aid package. Oh, right, Eugene Debs. But okay. Huh.
Tonight, with the Speaker's job on the line, the House passing a massive $95 billion...
But, like, if I'm not mistaken, he never actually got... he never got elected from prison, right? So nobody had to worry about that.
For an aid package with long-sought assistance for Israel and Ukraine. Inside the package of 4 bills, $60 billion in aid for Ukraine, $26 billion to Israel, and $8 for Taiwan. Legislation to force a sale of TikTok from its Chinese parent company.
So, earlier, before this weekend, I thought they were splitting up these packages, but apparently they just split up the votes within the package. It's very convoluted, and I think it was just a way for people to save face and to get the whole thing passed through, which is very annoying, because it means that if the Senate passes this, we're going to be funding genocide even more.
A major gamble by Speaker Mike Johnson, who's held up the aid for months and needed Democrats to get the legislation over the finish line, angering Republican hardliners.
Mike Johnson is a lame duck.
He's
done. He's done.
You do the right thing and you let the chips fall where they may.
Do you believe you will still be the Speaker come November?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, without question.
Yes.
2 other Republicans now joining Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's movement to boot Johnson from his speakership. Hardliners claiming Johnson betrayed them by not focusing on border security, despite Republicans rejecting a bipartisan border bill from the Senate after bowing to pressure from former President Trump.
What we're worried about is the signal we're sending to Americans, and to send $100 billion overseas without reinforcing our own borders.
And
not
Democrats
the
now
border.
signaling they're open to backing the embattled speaker.
Or the
if Green makes
homeless
good on her
crisis.
threat
How
to
about
call
that?
a vote for his removal.
Or housing.
I commended
in
by
general.
name traditional conservatives
healthcare.
led by Speaker Mike Johnson for doing the right thing.
Even former Speaker Nancy Pelosi telling me she's pleased with Johnson's push for Ukraine aid.
Do you think you can trust the Speaker?
Well, so far it looks that way.
Overnight, Ukraine launching drone strikes against Russia, state officials say, in an attack that appeared to target the country's power grid. The last time the House approved standalone aid for Ukraine was December 2022, when Democrats still controlled the chamber.
Oh my fucking god. That is I hate looking at her smile. I genuinely am never happy whenever Nancy Pelosi is happy. I feel like that woman is the worst. Well, not the... Is she the worst? No, she's on the list of the worst. You know what I mean? She's competing to be the worst. For fuck's sake. Oh, Nancy. Why are you still in office? How many years has it been? Alright, what are we doing? Moving on from this, that's what we're doing. But we're gonna look at this situation real quick, actually. I found this fascinating for multiple reasons. But this is a report from Reuters from 3 hours ago where apparently TikTok, the company, has raised concerns about the House bill regarding free speech.
TikTok on Sunday reiterated free speech concerns about a bill that was passed by the U.S. House Saturday. The measure would ban the popular social media app in the U.S. if its Chinese owner ByteDance did not sell its stake within a year.
The bill is passed without objection. A motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The House approved the legislation 360 to 58, which was a part of a broader foreign aid package. The Senate is expected to vote on it this week, and President Joe Biden has said he would sign it into law. In a statement, TikTok said it is unfortunate that the House of Representatives is using the cover of important foreign and humanitarian assistance to once again jam through a bill that would trample the free speech rights of 170 million Americans. Many U.S. lawmakers from both the Republican and Democratic parties and the Biden administration say TikTok poses national security risks because China could compel the company to share the data of its 170 million U.S.
The fact is, you know, it may or may not pose a security risk. It's hard to genuinely say 100% one way or the other, but is it a security risk for American companies to be selling people's data all over the place, willy-nilly, to basically anybody who wants it, I suppose? And, you know, what do they do about that? Nothing, really, aside from supporting it.
Users. TikTok insists it has never shared U.S. data and never would. Democratic U.S. Senator Mark Warner, chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, on Sunday told CBS News TikTok could be used as a propaganda tool by the Chinese government. While Democratic U.S. Representative Ro Khanna told ABC News Sunday that a TikTok ban may not survive legal scrutiny in courts, citing the U.S. Constitution's free speech protections. The House voted on March 13th to give ByteDance about 6 months to divest the U.S. asset.
So that number is different from the number that I heard before, 6 months versus 12 months. Yesterday, I think we talked about it as well. And they said 12 months. This one says 6 months. I haven't been able to figure out which one is in fact correct. But the thing that I find sort of fascinating and hilarious about this situation is, you know, while what I said previously is completely true about companies like Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat, whatever, American Google tech companies and whatnot in this country that are in fact American companies, they're doing plenty of fucked up stuff, right? But you know, who's to say TikTok isn't also doing fucked up stuff as well? We just need to deal with all of it, right? And for TikTok to be, it is in fact a Chinese company. It just happens to be incorporated in the Caymans, right? And you know, the Chinese government themselves, for you know, and I'm not saying that TikTok is necessarily a representative of China, but come on. Like, they crack down on free speech. There's literal jails for journalists. At least there were for quite some time. I don't know if they still exist. But, pretty sure they do. Everybody needs to stop being hypocrites about about free speech and about security of people's information on the internet. That's basically what I'm saying. Let's knock it off. Okay, moving on to, wait a second, how is this? Oh yeah, okay, this makes it. Alright, let's look at part of this documentary from PBS Terror from a year ago, entitled, What is the Riskiest Region in the U.S. as the Climate Changes? And it sort of does like an analysis here of the different areas in America and their sort of relative potential climate issues over the next, I think they said, I can't remember exactly how long they looked through it, but like over I think like 50 to 100 years.
In 2021, just 1 year, nearly 1 in 10 homes in the U.S. were impacted by natural hazards. And many places with the highest climate risk in the U.S. are also seeing some of the highest growth.
When we ask home buyers and sellers directly, is climate change impacting your decision to buy a home, to move to a particular location? It's yes, the answer is yes. But then when you look at the macro trends of where people are actually moving, they're moving into harm's way.
Here's the thing. A quick search for weather hazards in just about any geographic location will bring up news of disasters and dire predictions of worse to come. So how can we make informed decisions about where to live and how?
Singapore? No, I don't think so. Not according to my research. Pretty sure it's incorporated in the Cayman Islands. It has headquarters in Beijing.
Manage risk. It turns out that even though some places will face far more hazards as the climate warms, identifying the riskiest places in the future is really hard. Take Alexander Pishlaris as an example. In 2020, he was living in Portland, Oregon, and the wildfires and smoke of that summer got so bad that he decided to move to Florida. But when his car nearly flooded while driving through Miami Beach during heavy rain, he realized he hadn't escaped his weather woes. So we worked with some of the best minds in this space to help us sift through the data, find where hazards overlap, and map out the riskiest places in the U.S. And stay with us to find out where we think the single riskiest place might be. As extreme weather increases all over the country, how do we figure out the riskiest places? First, let's look at the safest places. These are the safest 10% of counties in the U.S. based on projections of how climate will change by the middle of the century. As the humid climate niche characterized by mean annual temperatures around 55 degrees Fahrenheit moves north, some places that are particularly cold now might actually get safer because, as we know from previous episodes, the most deadly weather in the U.S. is extreme cold. This ProPublica study also lists the most dangerous U.S. counties, and we'll get to that in a bit. But first, let's add to our map mid-century projections for flood, storm, fire, drought, and heat risk. Starting with one of the most local hazards, flooding. This map shows the number of properties impacted by future floods due to rain, overflowing rivers, high tides, and storm surge. Many coastal towns will be impacted by rising sea levels, and places like West Virginia will be slammed with heavy rain as the climate warms. According to Redfin, by 2050, 84% of properties in Cape Coral, Florida, and 98% of properties in New Orleans will be at risk for flooding. Houston is also an outlier on this list due to the sheer number of properties at risk, as we saw.
I think the reason you're thinking Singapore is because the CEO was born in Singapore. He's a Chinese person, like a Chinese national born in Singapore, I believe, or something. Actually, I take that part back. I'm not sure if he's a Chinese national. He might actually have not have a Chinese citizenship. Could be wrong about that part of it, but I'm pretty sure he's Singaporean.
Hurricane Harvey submerged the city under its record-shattering rains in 2017. But what about storms? It seems like these extreme precipitation events are causing more and more damage as the climate warms. The top 10 cities impacted by storms are mostly in the Northeast, but Portland and Seattle, both infamously rainy cities, also appear here. Now let's look at fire. Here the map shifts dramatically to the west and southeast. This map shows the annual likelihood of wildfire in 2050. The places most at risk of devastating wildfires aren't cities, but instead houses and developments on the edge of wildlands in places with
Hold on, I want to go back. Wow, the West. Wow, the West has a much higher likelihood of wildfires. Jesus Christ. It's like night and day.
Cities, but instead houses and developments on the edge of wildlands in places with lots of fire. And it's not just forested areas that are at risk, but also the grass and shrublands of regions like the Great Basin, particularly places that are getting drier. Which brings us to drought. This map shows decreases in precipitation over the last 30 years compared to the 20th century. But what about the future? Well, here are the top 5 cities projected to be impacted by drought in 2050.
Colorado Springs, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, San Diego, and San Antonio. These 4 have some very large populations. Colorado Springs is, I think, actually quite a lot smaller than those. I'm trying to think, how big is Colorado Springs? I could be wrong. No, it's only 500,000 people.
4 of them rely on water from the Colorado River, which is already in a decades-long drought, and large water use cuts in the basin are inevitable. Lastly, let's look at the second most common cause of weather-related deaths in the U.S., heat. This map shows projected days over 100 degrees in 2053. Oh man, Florida, Texas, and Arizona are looking pretty toasty. Phoenix is hotter than anywhere else, but in Florida, temperatures don't need to be as high for it to become dangerous because it's also humid there. That makes it harder for the body.
Are we replaying the 2000 election in chat right now? This is hilarious. Ah, damn you hanging chads.
To cool itself by sweating.
But really it's damn you, Jeb Bush.
If we take a look at the combined risk of all these climate impacts, we start to see how different regions will fare. And the Southeast will pretty clearly bear the brunt of climate change. And now let's add back in the data we looked at earlier, but this time for the riskiest 10% of counties. At this point, we're beginning to get a clearer picture of some places you might want to think twice about before moving. But are we really any closer to determining the single...
Oh, I just want to look at that one again, too. Riskiest 10 counties in the United States. 10%, not 10. 10% of counties in the United States. For the next 40 years, I guess. 35 years. It's all on the southeast seaboard. Down along the Gulf Coast. In the Midwest, where the worst tornadoes happen. Really, all of Texas looks kind of fucked. And then all the border areas, for some reason, in the Southwest. I think that's because of drought and fire combinations. Ah, boy.
About before moving. But are we really any closer to determining the single riskiest place in the country? Perhaps we need to take a look at this issue from a different angle. We reached out to Hannah Hess from the Rhodium Group's Climate Impact Lab, where they study how climate change will affect humans across...
You're right, FG. I completely glazed over Florida because I think in all of our minds, we just know intrinsically. If you're in this chat, you're probably smart enough to know intrinsically that Florida is kind of fucked. You know, it's not... anybody in Florida's, well, I'm not going to go that far, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's surrounded by water. It gets hit by like 3, 4, 5 hurricanes a year or something like that. It's slowly sinking into the ocean. And I mean, you know, there's like so many other, it's fucked. It is just fucked. So, you know, like, have you seen like the sinkholes in Florida? Like for fuck's sake. Like, that is a throwaway state. Okay, that's not true. I'm sorry, Florida. I take it back. You're not a throwaway state. But we have to stop climate change now for Florida to not be a throwaway state.
A variety of categories, including death rates and the amount of time someone can spend on the job working due to temperature.
So what we're looking at on this map is how workers in high-risk industries like construction or agriculture or manufacturing being exposed to higher temperatures during the workday causes them to have to shift their time.
This might mean starting their workday later or ending it earlier, or taking more frequent breaks to cool off and protect themselves from the heat. One thing their research shows.
Okay, that's all we're going to watch of that documentary. Of course, if you're fascinated by this data, you can go to PBS Terra and watch the rest of it. Oh, they forgot Hawaii and Alaska again. You're right, they did. God damn it, Styx Dragon. Why are we always forgetting Hawaii and Alaska? If we're not going to remember them, why are they part of the country? Okay, that's fucked. But you get what I'm saying? We should remember them. I forgot them too. I'm glad you remembered that. The second you said it, I was like, holy shit. Styx is right. We've completely neglected 2 whole states. That is fucked. Ugh. And what about like American Samoa and like Puerto Rico and like what is it? I can't think of the other ones now. All those goddamn U.S. territories. Okay, whatever. Let's move on. This is a short health report. This is from a day ago. More young adults are being diagnosed with cancer. American Cancer Society says. This is according to News Center Maine.
Across the country, trends are showing cancer diagnoses are increasing among younger adults. The American Cancer Society says more adults under the age of 50 are being diagnosed with cancer. It estimates by the year 2030, early onset cancer diagnoses will be up by 30%, and the number of deaths from cancer will increase nearly 20%. Doctors say modern day diet, environment, exercise, and drug and alcohol use can all be potential factors. They say these increases are not spotted specifically in one type of cancer, but across the board.
Now, scientists say that the...
For fuck's sake. Not great. My guess is a huge factor in all that is microplastics and all of our fucking shit, which we've been realizing is in literally everything, seemingly, which is terrifying. Okay, well, not everything. I am being inflammatory right now, or hyperbolic. Not everything, just in so much of the manufactured shit that we make. We can change. I believe in us, chat. Okay, no, yes. This is from 3 days ago. According to BBC, a deadly African heat wave caused by climate change is ravaging the continent, according to scientists.
Now, scientists say that the recent deadly heat wave in West Africa and the Sahel would not have taken place without the impact of climate change. Temperatures soared above 48 degrees Celsius in Mali last month, with one hospital linking hundreds of deaths to the extreme heat.
I mean, when I bring up microplastics, I'm saying it's at least a factor, like a big factor, right? But we are exposed to radiation from a bunch of different things, right? As well as, you know, there are other factors, genetic and lifestyle factors as well, right? But my point is that microplastics are clearly not helping anybody, right? And the discovery that, I don't know if, I think we watched it on this channel, but we discovered that there's just microplastics in bottled water. You know, it's it's in so many places, and we've just been kind of going about as if it's not. And young adults, people under 35, I guess, right, have been alive throughout the plastics becoming, what do you call it, omniscient. Oh God plastic. No. Yeah. like having, like, by way of osmosis almost, gone through our entire way of life. And I think that people under 35 have been around for all of that, where everything that we've eaten is encased in plastic, and our whole lives are, touched by that. Whereas people who are older, not that plastic wasn't yet invented, but it wasn't as, I don't think, as prevalent until what? Was it like the late 70s? Like, oh, fucking hell. Now I gotta look something. Hold on, before I keep talking out of my ass. It was the 60s. Okay, it was in the 70s. I was close. Okay. I wasn't losing my fucking mind. Thank God. Oh, phew.
Researchers from the World Weather Attribution Group say human activities such as the burning of fossil fuels and deforestation made daytime temperatures up to 1.5 degrees hotter than normal in the region. Well, let's speak to our environment correspondent, Matt McGrath. Matt, just explain what this survey found as what happened and why it is happening.
Indeed, as you point out, this heat wave raged across the Sahel region in West Africa for 5 days and 5 even warmer nights in the end of March and early April. It saw temperatures, as you pointed out, across the region go above 45 degrees. In Mali, they went above 48. In one town, they went above 48.5 degrees. So an intense burst of heat, which you say saw temperatures rise 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial in an awful lot of the region. But at night, temperatures were above 2 degrees in many parts of the region. And when you consider that this was during Ramadan, people were fasting, there was literally no relief. And that may well be linked to the number of deaths that people have encountered at a hospital in Bamako in Mali.
Is that in reference to what we were just talking about? Yeah. And I also, while we were watching this, realized that if it became more prevalent, like in the 70s, that would kind of include people going into their later 40s even.
We're seeing 102 deaths in the early days of April. They compare that to last year when they had 160 in the whole of April. So they're clearly linking those deaths to the heat. I say a lot of those people were elderly, and they also say that essentially this is the tip of the iceberg in terms of the numbers of people that were affected by this intense heat wave.
And they're also warning about what will happen in decades to come if nothing is done to try and stop climate change and global warming.
That's right. The researchers here link this very clearly to the use of oil, coal and gas, to deforestation, to agriculture around the world that have driven up emissions of carbon dioxide and other warming gases. That's put our current temperatures 1.2 degrees above what they were before the industrial era. But those temperatures are going to continue to rise. And the researchers say that this heat wave was essentially a once in 200-year event at the moment. But if our temperatures globally go up to about 2 degrees, which could happen in the next 10 to 15 years, maybe longer, then that heat wave would occur once every 20 years. So there's a massive multiplier in terms of the global average temperature going up in the next number of years.
Okay, just because I couldn't help but do this, let's look at this graph really quickly. Just because we've been talking about prevalence of plastic and blah blah blah. Can I open this? Okay, good. Okay. Oh, you son of a bitch. Why are you in this positioning? Won't even let me zoom on this. Okay. Oh, there we go. Oops. Okay. So this is global plastics production. Annual production of polymer resin and fibers. Started in 1950, but it was very small. This is being each one of these lines on the y-axis are in the are 100 million tons. So as you can see, like, we were making plastic starting in 1950, and it started to really ramp up going into 1970. But the comparison in terms of how much we're talking about being out there since then, I think this makes a lot of sense. Like, starting with here, like around 1985, like you got 100 million tons when it first crossed. I think it's close to like 1986 maybe. boy, that is a disturbing graph. And that top line with 400 million tons. So we're producing 450 million tons of plastic a year. For fuck's sake, we gotta chill. And that stops at 2019. I just realized that graph is incomplete. It's missing 5 years worth of data. Okay, anyway. Just figured we'd take a quick look at that before we move on while we were talking about plastics in our environment. Okay, this is from 13 hours ago from CBS Sunday Morning. Photographer James Polog on documenting climate change. Quote unquote, adventure with a purpose.
With Earth Day tomorrow, we figured this is the perfect time for Ben Tracy's close-up of James Balog, one of the preeminent environmental photographers of our time.
That's it, you got it.
If you ever decide to try your hand at climbing a 70-foot tall wall of ice, it's helpful to have a guide who knows quite a bit about frozen water.
Thanks for taking me ice climbing.
Well, you're welcome.
That is harder than it looks.
Yeah, no joke, right?
Oh, what is it that fascinates you about ice?
It's so weird looking compared to every other material you see on the surface of the earth. I just feel like I'm entering this other realm, this other kingdom.
We met up with James Balog at the Ouray Ice Park in Colorado's Box Canyon. But he has visited some of the most remote and remarkable kingdoms of ice.
Some of these pictures
all
are
over
so
the planet,
incredible. My
capturing
God.
stunning images of these severe
It looks like it's a
and
different
surreal
planet.
landscapes as an environmental photographer.
The big problem
The
with
Earth is
being
so
a photographer
incredible.
is that you have to be there and you have to see something and you have to turn it into something inside that little rectangle. I think of it as an adventure with a purpose.
For decades, that purpose has been to document the dramatic climatic changes happening on our warming planet.
I just got
Vanishing
sad.
ice, rising seas, the floods, the fires, and the toll it's taking on all living things. Balog has become one of the foremost chroniclers of human-caused climate change.
So many of the things that you've actually documented no longer exist.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think about that?
Stop blindly
On the ice
drinking
project,
water.
I think about that all the time. I mean, I'm stunned by it.
You are a bit of a convert. You were a climate change skeptic at one point.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just had this reflexive human assumption that our little species wasn't strong enough to change this huge organism called nature with a capital N. Then eventually I realized that that assumption was wrong and that I needed to somehow express the reality of what was going on through the pictures, and that's what became the Ice Project.
Balog founded the Extreme Ice Survey in 2007, a network of 27 cameras watching over glaciers from Antarctica to Alaska, Iceland to Greenland, each providing thousands of images per year that, when combined, reveal how quickly we are reshaping our planet.
Look at that.
The 2012 documentary Chasing Ice shows the moment Balog's team captured one of the largest ice calving events ever recorded, as a massive piece of ice the size of Lower Manhattan broke off of the Greenland ice sheet.
When I started the Extreme Ice Survey, climate change was still seen as a pretty abstract thing. It was something that was going to happen 20 or 30 or 50 years from now. And my God,
I should come back to Earth one day. I come back to Earth on the reg. You know? It's pretty frequent. There's things on Earth I have to do.
when you could start to realize, no, it's happening right now, right in front of us, it put a real marker in time to say, this is now, this is real.
And Balog is also using his camera to prepare us for what's to come. He shot this series on sea level rise in the Chesapeake Bay.
woman Vanessa with her son Trey on her back standing in the water, it expresses the idea of sea level, that the ocean levels will be different when that little boy is grown up than they are today when Vanessa is standing in the water and I'm standing in the water with them. I get a little choked up because these historical weights sometimes kind of trigger something in my head. And it symbolically evokes the fact that those kids will live in a different world than the parents do. I'd like to see that one again, though.
Baylog has spent the past 4 years sorting.
The photos that this guy is able to take are pretty incredible.
Through and editing nearly 2 million of his photos. He recently delivered many of them to the Library of Congress, where they will join the permanent collection alongside iconic environmental photographs, such as Dorothea Lange's images from the Dust Bowl during the Great Depression.
Very iconic image.
Micah Messenger is a photography curator at the library.
Jim's photographs are drawing on these points and addressing a lot of the same subject matter that was being addressed by these photographers.
Okay. I just thought that was a nice little break from, well, it wasn't really a break from Doom as much as it was an artistic look at Doom, at some of the, environmental issues that we have going on. And, felt necessary on a Sunday Funday / Earth Day. Giant space muffins, space Costco. Oh, God. You're all so funny. Okay, what's next? How far are we in, by the way? An hour 15, not bad. Okay, this is a very tiny but positive story. This is from Associated Press from a day ago. More than 500 trees planted in Lima ahead of Earth Day.
Esta es la campaña Sembrando Bosques. Estamos dando el inicio.
The tenets of the Satanic Temple are the closest thing to a religion that you believe in. I'm actually a follower of the Space-Tanic Temple. I need a drum. I need a freaking. I need a rim shot over here. God dang it.
En el marco de las celebraciones del Día de la Tierra, que Sembrando Bosques busca que generemos pequeños ecosistemas de bosques urbanos.
Oh, good to see you, Lefty. Good to see you, pal.
Una zona
a forested area improves the climate. Now we are here and we feel very hot. If the forest was already grown, the temperature would be lower.
So hot right now.
Okay. Yeah. The Space-Tanic Temple is the place for me, and it should be the place for you. Well, you know what? At the Space-Tanic Temple, we don't tell people what to do. It's up to you, really. I crossed my bounds there a little bit. You want to be a space chaplain when you grow up? Too funny. Okay, moving along. Hey, you know what? This is another slight... Well, it's complicated, but it's slightly positive. It's more than slightly positive, right? This is from 4 days ago, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. There's a... they're pretty well known at this point. But there is a NGO by the name of the Ocean Cleanup, which has been doing its part, more than its part, I guess I would say. But they continue to grow their operations. on removing plastic from the oceans and from, well, just from nature to some degree, but essentially from water, right? Because this right here is not the ocean. This is in fact a river. This is, according to them, potentially their biggest ever river catch. And this shit is nuts. You should see how much. I mean, we're gonna watch this actually at 2x because it's like 6 minutes long, but this is a ton of plastic, you will see. As you can see, they have this barrier here in the river. It's attached to both sides of the river. And it allows the water through, but a very minimal amount of plastic in comparison to the amount that it catches. We meet at Space Costco by the samples. Hilarious. But the important part of this is that it is keeping this plastic from going out to sea. There was a flood in where was this again? Sorry. Oh shit, it doesn't even say it. Oh, Rio Las Vacas. I think that is in Brazil. Hold on. Oh, Guatemala. Guatemala. I mean, the amount here is incredible. We're talking about like 100 dump trucks worth or more of plastic right there. This is insane. Okay. Cool. Let's move it along. It's just nice to see somebody preventing environmental catastrophes, you know? Like in progress. It's very satisfying for me. I don't know about you, chat, but you know, we need more of that, like on just a global scale, literally. No, I watched this to the end. It didn't break over the nets. Although I did notice that some amount was able to like get through. It's not perfect, but it's, I would say, doing like 98% of what's needed. And I'll take 98% over 100 over, you know what I mean, over, you know, 100 out in there in the ocean, you know, or you know, it's just one river, right? Absolutely. If we can be doing this on a broad scale. Now, granted, it wasn't just from the river itself. It was from a flood. A flood caused all of this garbage to be collected and shoved into the water source. They just happened to have, I don't know if, I couldn't figure it out if they had it there already or if they knew this was happening, if this was going to happen and then put it there ahead of time. That, for me, I still was not able to understand. But thankfully it was there and was able to stop this. But this doesn't normally happen in this river, right? But considering, could have been from a garbage dump. It could have been, you know, considering a flood, you could just be picking up from all over town. Not all that familiar with the area, but it's just kind of positive video. Figured it'd be good to watch. in between some of this somewhat unfortunate shit that we're going to be looking at. Okay. This is from 4 hours ago. AP. Hailstorm sweeps through South Carolina, leaving damaged houses and cars.
Hey, where you go? The street car will leave. They hear the script out of trees.
Oh shit.
It looks strange out here.
Whoopsies. Did not realize this was still on 2X. Hold on. There we go.
Everywhere you go, the street car will leave. They hear the script out of trees out of their leaves and stuff. It look strange out here. This storm came up fast. Cause one minute it was sun, the sun was shining. About 20 minutes later, it was hailing, and I mean hail the size of a ping pong ball. You couldn't even see out the window. It rained.
And just in case you're not able to understand this man, what he's saying is that it was sunny, and then 20 minutes later, it was hailing hailstones the size of, or hail, I don't think it's stones, what's it called? Hail, is it hailstones? Whatever, is it? Hail the size of ping pong balls.
So hard.
The neighbors all lost windows. My son's car, the windshield shattered. It was gone, and just a lot of damage and chaos. It was sad. A lot of people were in the streets crying and scared. So it was pretty scary, and we just didn't have any warning at all. There was just zero warning that it was going to hit.
Oh shit. It's not all the way up, you're right. Yeah, fix it.
Some people were cleaning up. Yesterday we had a small window where it wasn't raining. They were out cleaning and picking up debris, but it's been raining pretty much since then, so we're just left with the mess till the rain stops. South Carolina gets a lot of storms, but I personally have never really been in a storm like this before. It was pretty scary.
Okay, what's next? Okay, we're just going to quickly look at this again, because this is fascinating to me and very concerning to me also. Is better? I am sorry about the video. I'm sorry. I apologize about previously. To everybody who experienced that low volume situation. Sometimes I change the volume to say stuff and I forget to move it back. That's my fault. I don't use a monitor because honestly it bothers me. I don't like being able to hear myself. That's part of it. But, okay, yeah. So let's look at the floods that are still happening in Russia. Because this is a situation once again, I thought that this was going to be a one and done sort of thing with the flood, as usually they are, right? They usually subside. But in this case, it has continued to get worse. Let's just look at this quick video of what the situation currently is there. So yeah, still inundated by this flood in I guess it's the southern Siberia region. It's where Russia meets up with Kazakhstan by the Ural River basin. I think it's a river basin area. Now that I think about it. Anyway, let's move on because we got a lot more to look at. This next video is very concerning. I can't stress this enough. And the fact is, this video is not dramatic in any way, but the data from this is in fact bad. Just gonna point that out to you. This is from 3 hours ago. CBS Evening News. How climate change could impact forests, and I would actually say I would change the title of this video. If I was in charge of CBS Evening News social media, I would have named this How Climate Change is in fact impacting forests currently.
Tomorrow is Earth Day. A new CBS News poll finds 2/3 of Americans think it is their responsibility to do something about climate change right now. One scientist is going to great lengths to do her part. Here's CBS's David Schechter.
A hotspot for research. That's one way to think of this plot of Puerto Rican forest strung with high voltage lines.
Hi, I'm Tana.
David. Dr. Tana Wood is a research ecologist with the U.S. Forest Service who studies how tropical forests will respond to climate change.
How can we give this window into a future warmer world hundreds of years into the future?
Those black panels are electric heaters running 24/7, warming up this plot of the jungle by 7 degrees Fahrenheit. She says worst case scenario, that's how much warmer it could be on Earth by the end of the century if we keep emitting heat-trapping carbon from our cars, factories, and power plants. This experiment was interrupted by Hurricane Maria in 2017, and ever since, the plants in the heated section have struggled to recover. Dead leaves, stunted growth.
This looks totally different.
We have begun to notice that the forest has become shorter and shorter as time has gone on. And so you can visibly see that the forest is experiencing stress under these conditions.
When trees and plants die and decay, they release carbon. Fortunately, healthy trees and soil absorb more carbon than what's being released. But Wood is finding their ability to keep doing that might be in jeopardy. Her team is making hundreds of measurements of the forest, recording the growth of plants, looking underground at the health of the root system, and this device records how much carbon the soil is releasing.
So after 1 year of warming, we saw a major increase in the amount of carbon dioxide that was coming out of these soils.
Her experiment is showing us rising temperatures cause forests to release more carbon. More carbon in the atmosphere causes the planet to get warmer. And the cycle continues.
So, let's just listen to that again, because that last point there is the one that I find the most troubling.
And this device records how much carbon the soil is releasing.
So after 1 year of warming, we saw a major increase in the amount of carbon dioxide that was coming out of these soils.
Her experiment is showing us rising temperatures cause forests to release more carbon. More carbon in the atmosphere causes the planet to get warmer, and the cycle continues.
What happens in these ecosystems has far-reaching consequences for the climate as a whole.
David?
Now, so just to make it clear, soil always emits as it breaks down, plant matter, like dead bug, you know what I'm saying? Like as it breaks down by microbial and other sorts of means, it releases methane and other sorts of greenhouse gases to some degree, right? But the trees that grow out of the soil offset it, right? By more, they usually have always, by many factors, put more oxygen and removed more CO2 from the environment than the soil emits, right? However, this study, which is from very, very recently, this just came out, like this data, like this study right here, like not the study, so this report from CBS. Is this CBS? Yeah. This just came out earlier today, right? This is recent data. So this is the sort of stuff that we need to be aware of, so that we can, alter our expectations and our goals and what we do about this situation to be able to, we have to be aware of this, so that we know how much more we need to do to fix things, right? Because if the soil starts truly, and now it's only in one small area where they're doing this, and it needs to be done on a larger scale to know exactly, what the implications are globally. But it's a concerning point. Like it's a concerning data point on the graph, if you will. Okay. I'm putting it back together. Putting myself back together. How far are we into the stream? An hour and a half. Well, you know what? It's Earth Day, so you know what? We'll just come back and do more of this. I don't have a problem with that. Well, I hope everybody is having a fantastic Sunday Funday / Earth Day. I know that I am enjoying what's happening with all of you tonight. If you haven't already, hit that like button and do consider subscribing. It genuinely helps me out. Now, if you'd like to support the Galactic News Network and what I do here even more, you can subscribe on Patreon and become a Galactic producer. For just a few dollars a month, a myriad of galactic benefits awaits. Alright, chat. Enjoy this brief intermission. Take a dip in the pool. Grab a drink from the bar. Or whatever else it is that you'd like to do with this time. And I'll be right back. Alright, chat, I am back. Keep a watchful eye on Moon. Interesting. Okay, since it's Earth Day, we're going to stay focused on environmental issues on the second half of the stream as well. Not entirely, but to some degree. Maybe we should do this one first. This is Sunday Funday after all. Okay, we're about to watch / listen to. Well, it's very, very interesting. Something that I somehow was completely unaware of and was actually done 2 years ago. This is the Netherlands Radio Philharmonic. Now, multiple different philharmonics did their interpretation of this piece, but it was created by AI using Vivaldi's Four Seasons as a structure, and then the AI was given data for the Earth's climate in 2050, and it created this I guess you would call it a symphony still. This is a AI version of the Four Seasons by Vivaldi using 2050 as a sort of a new factor in it. And it's quite chilling and strange. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but let's listen to this. Oh, and the name of it is The Uncertain Four Seasons. hear a lot of moon talk in chat right now. I see a lot of moon talk in chat. And the color of the moon, my guess, right? Bad Lefty, you're in, I believe, Ireland. And Iceland is currently has active volcano going, so there's probably a lot of carbon going into the atmosphere near you. My guess is that is part of the reason for the coloring. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It's a very odd, haunting sort of thing to hear that music in this new, strange way. Maybe it's just me personally, but I hope you all enjoyed it as well. Let's move on to actual climate things. This is from 3 days ago, where record-breaking ocean heat has triggered massive coral reef bleaching, which we've talked about, but we are going to continue to talk about until we fix it.
The temperatures of the world's oceans are quite literally off the charts. That orange line, that is last year's reading. The red line at the very top, that's this year's temperature readings. One of the most severe consequences of these warming falls on the world's coral reefs, which nearly a quarter of all ocean species rely on. According to NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, scientists issued a warning due to record-breaking temperatures in 2023, which accelerated the speed of the second largest mass bleaching event across the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans. For more on the global situation and what's at stake, we are joined by Julia Baum. She's a marine ecologist and coral reefs researcher and a professor at the University of Victoria in Canada. Julia Baum, thank you so much for being here. So NOAA just issued this report showing this widespread bleaching, which is a sign of distress in corals. We have seen reports over the years of declining health in corals. So how do you put what's happening now in the context of what we've seen before?
What we're seeing now is the fourth global coral bleaching event, as you said, and it's alarming and likely catastrophic. And what's particularly alarming about it is that in the past, these bleaching events occurred, a sufficient amount of time apart that coral reefs had sufficient time to recover in between them. But now we're seeing these global coral bleaching events occur two within the past decade. So there was a mega event during the 2015-2016 El Nino that devastated coral reefs right around the world, including mass bleaching and mortality on the Great Barrier Reef and in many, many other locations. And coral reefs take many years to recover. So 10, 20, 30, 40 years to recover. So now to see another bleaching event that is...
Yeah, this is very frustrating because, right, we talked about this a decade ago. We didn't do pretty much of anything, right? A few scientists started trying to bioengineer coral, and I really want that to work, but if we continue warming at this rate, I find it hard to believe it will be able to have it keep up with that. So we really need to slow things down. Fuck.
Very, very intense and widespread happening just 8 years later is extremely worrying.
So I mentioned briefly coral's importance in the ocean ecosystem. I mean, we love them because they're not just what we see in Jacques Cousteau and David Attenborough documentaries. They are that, but they're also many.
Jacques Cousteau has been dead for like 30 years, hasn't he? He died in 97. Jesus Christ, bro.
Other things. Can you sort of remind us of their importance?
Absolutely. So I'm a marine ecologist. So of course I think about all of the wildlife that lives on coral reefs. And you already mentioned that a quarter of the world's diversity, different species of animals in the ocean live on coral reefs, which is completely astounding when you think about the fact that coral reefs cover less than 0.1% of the surface area of the world's oceans. But coral reefs are also extraordinarily important to people. So they are worth hundreds of billions of dollars every year. And that's through things like tourism, recreation, all of the coastal protection that they provide. So when we risk losing a huge proportion of the world's coral reefs, we're actually at
I love that movie. The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou is a fantastic movie. It's a great movie.
risk of losing all sorts of other things that are vitally important to many, many people around the planet, especially those who live really close to coral reefs and rely upon them for either their sustenance or their livelihoods.
When you look at the drivers of this warming ocean, climate change, El Nino, perhaps some other factors, what does your research indicate is most complicit in this problem?
Right. Well, it's climate change. So this is without a doubt driven by human-caused climate change. And so I want to link El Nino to that. Under climate change, El Ninos are now supercharged. And that means that they are occurring more frequently. They are at a greater intensity. So the magnitude of the heat stress that they unleash is a lot bigger. And they also can last for a much longer period. So in the past, for example, you might have had some heat stress on an individual coral reef lasting for a couple of weeks. Now we see that type of heat stress lasting for many, many months. And that causes the corals to bleach and then eventually die. So they're becoming much more serious, and that's a direct result of climate change.
We have seen over the past year all of these efforts to try to preserve the corals, pull them out of warmer oceans and store them in cooler tanks on land, sometimes cryopreserve these corals. What do you make of those efforts, and do you think overall they are going to be enough to save this ecosystem?
I think it's a tragedy that we are pushing to, coral reefs and coral reef researchers to that absolute extreme. That's a triage type of response, and it's a last ditch response. Maybe it will make a little bit of a difference in some areas where it's being implemented, but it's not a solution that is going to save the world's coral reefs, and it's undoubtedly the only thing that is going to save the world's coral reefs at this point is a rapid reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. That is absolutely certain. Anything else that we do, might help a few areas here and there, and of course that will be important in those areas where it helps. But if we are going to ensure that the world's coral reefs are still in existence in the coming decades, we have to rapidly mitigate climate change. There's no other way forward here.
All right, Julia Baum of the University of Victoria in Canada, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Thank you, PBS, for that very frustrating story. And we've seen multiple spots in the world, footage from Florida, from Brazil, from Australia, where basically most of the world's coral reefs exist, where they're all having the same problems. Need to stop the hydrocarbons in the atmosphere. So speaking of that, let's look at this. This is from Tomorrow's Build from a year ago. These mini nuclear reactors can be built anywhere.
What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the term nuclear power? If you're thinking of past disasters, giant cooling towers in the middle of nowhere, or stores of radioactive waste, then, well, you're not alone. Despite its carbon-free credentials, nuclear power has an unhappy reputation. And while public support for it may have increased since the mid-1980s, a quarter of Americans, for example, are still not in favour. But now engineers may have found a way to turn things around. No, we're not talking about fusion, as exciting as that may be. Instead, we might be looking at the next iteration of more traditional nuclear, making those big, ugly power stations smaller, in some cases, quite a bit smaller. These new designs will be cheaper, safer, quicker and easier to build than their predecessors, meaning they can be deployed anywhere, from large cities to remote locations. And even though there's been some skepticism, the first projects are already in the works. So does the future of nuclear power mean a reactor in every town, or is this whole concept destined for a meltdown? Climate change might be the biggest issue of the 21st century. To help dodge the worst of its impact, humanity set itself a huge challenge: cutting greenhouse gases to net zero. Renewables are the main strategy, but wind, solar and hydro won't be enough on their own. We need something else in reserve. According to the International Energy Agency, to get where we need to be, we're going to have to invest more in nuclear power. But the use of nuclear has been decreasing for decades, not helped by Japan's Fukushima disaster in 2011.
Nuclear power has been declining in terms of its importance to global electricity generation for more than 25 years at this point.
Ramana is a professor at the University of British Columbia's School of Public Policy and Global Affairs, specialising in nuclear energy.
The maximum contribution of nuclear power to global electricity was in 1995. It was 17.5%, and it has declined to about 10%.
Nuclear power plants can take decades to build, cost billions, and are hugely complex. Finding the right location can be difficult, and there are often setbacks during planning and construction.
2 new nuclear reactors.
One thing that people, I think, miss a lot about Fukushima is that it didn't just happen randomly. It was the result of the biggest earthquake and tsunami in the in that ocean next to in the Pacific, in that area, for I think like hundreds of years or something like that. Like it was, it was a massive natural disaster that precipitated the meltdown.
Under construction in Georgia will cost far more than expected.
Don't say meltdown.
The 2 reactors being constructed in the United States and the Wobegon project in Georgia are running at around $30 billion at this point. And that amount of cost is too much for most utilities to bear.
But what if they didn't have to be so big and complicated? What if we could do nuclear without all the hassle? Well, soon we might be able to do just that. Several companies are working on small modular reactors, or SMRs, which promise to make nuclear power much simpler and easier. Instead of giant reactors that deliver a gigawatt of power but need years of construction, SMRs are mass-produced in factories. Unlike conventional power stations, which are individual projects requiring a great deal of prep work, with these you just have to add one to your basket and it's on the way. Their modular nature means that SMRs will be less expensive and easier to install, at least that's the aim. So how small are we talking exactly?
So SMRs, or small modular reactors, are any reactor that has a power output of 300 megawatts electric or less. So our design is a 77 megawatt electric reactor. And each of those modules is able to work with other modules. So we can put them in arrangements of 4, 6, or 12 to produce different power outputs depending on what the customer needs.
Now, small reactors aren't entirely new.
At Fort Belvoir, Virginia, the Corps of Engineers shows off its package power reactor to military attachés of the Washington Diplomatic Corps. It's the first step in a program to develop an atomic power plant that can be transported by air to remote locations.
In fact, they were being designed as far back as the 1950s, mostly for submarines and big aircraft carriers. There were civilian uses too, but not many, as larger reactors went on to become more economically viable. Where things are different this time is in the modular design. A 60 megawatt reactor, for example, might not be enough to power the thing you want it to on its own, say for instance a large city. But you could order more than one, stack them together and get as much power as you need. They're also portable enough to go pretty much anywhere. You can use an SMR to power something which needs a lot of juice, like a factory, without having to be hooked into the grid.
We're the first commercial nuclear power plant that's been approved by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to not require independent connections to the grid. And that's huge because that allows us to work closely with industry. For example, hydrogen production, One of our modules, working with high temperature steam electrolysis, could produce about 50 tons of hydrogen per day.
Sounds great, but we know what you're thinking. If we're going to have nuclear reactors everywhere, how do I know there won't be a mini Chernobyl in my hometown? Before you go digging a bunker in your backyard, these units are designed to be far safer than their predecessors. Because the cores of SMRs are much smaller, they generate less heat and there are far fewer moving parts to worry about. They've got clever safety features too.
So for our design, under the worst case conditions, the reactors will safely shut themselves down without any operator action, without any AC or DC power, and they'll remain cool for an unlimited period of time without the need to add water. So that's a first for commercial nuclear power, and it makes it extremely resilient and extremely safe.
Making sure things don't go wrong is clearly a priority for this other new company, Ultra Safe Nuclear Corporation, a name we can't decide whether we love or hate. Inside its reactor, the fuel is encased within layered ceramic coatings placed inside a silicon carbide matrix. We're not entirely sure what that means, but we're told it makes the fuel highly rugged and stable even at extreme temperatures. As for waste, when all the fuel's been spent, after about 20 years, the caskets can be swapped out like a giant AA battery and stored in an underground repository. Another firm, Multex Energy, has gone a step further by designing an SMR that's fueled by recycled nuclear waste.
Which is
Called
amazing.
the SSRW, it's a type of reactor that uses molten salt for fueling and cooling. This method allows any
Because the fact is that, you know, there is a lot of energy left in nuclear waste. So like the high level of the HLW nuclear waste is often still viable, and this is the kind of stuff we need in our in terms of our energy infrastructure to be done, so that we can have a completely carbon free grid.
Reactive gases to be absorbed, and in the event of an emergency, the reactor can be drained and the salt solidified, preventing a meltdown. Now, you might not have heard of these companies, but you will know some of the people and tech firms linked to them. Radiant, developer of a 1 megawatt microreactor, is run by former SpaceX engineers.
Okay, cool. And one more video about nuclear power. This is from a year ago as well, from AP. And this is a video regarding nuclear micro reactors hitting the market. They look pretty sweet. It's just a box.
So the microreactor that we developed is the same fundamental technology, the same physics, the same chemistry, the same materials that you see powering 300 power plants around the world, contributing to almost 10% of global electricity production. What we've done is we've repackaged it in order to be able to build most of it in a factory, be able to put it inside of modules, transport it to site, and make the construction process radically simplified.
Last Energy says the 20 megawatt microreactors could replace carbon dioxide emitting fossil fuels that power factories or data centers. Traditional nuclear power costs billions of dollars. The total cost of Last Energy's microreactor is under $100 million.
Microreactors are an exciting advanced reactor technology. They've been around for a couple of years. Most of the companies that are developing microreactors started around 2016 to 2018. But even though they're relatively new, they're also moving quickly to the market. And so we expect to see the first microreactors operating by 2024 and 2026.
To be fair, Chernobyl used outdated technology at the time. Yeah, no, absolutely. A slew of universities.
See a couple of.
I was too busy reading chat. A slew of universities interested in the technology, not just to power their buildings, but to see how far it can go in replacing fossil fuels.
We see a couple of universities already moving forward to investigate the use of microreactors. The University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, Purdue University, and Penn State University are all working with companies to explore the use of nuclear power, specifically microreactors. And so it's an exciting opportunity to see nuclear power help to reduce carbon emissions for these universities.
It's too efficient, the government would buy the patent and shelve it. Well, at this point, the government has to get on board with this shit. Unless unless they outright assassinate him. We're going to have to make too many MFers for them to assassinate. That's my opinion.
Enthusiasm for microreactor technology is completely unjustified. These reactors are going to be much less efficient than large light water reactors and pose a number of safety and security risks, and will also generate much more expensive electricity. So I think those who are hoping that microreactors are going to be the silver bullet for solid.
This guy's crying about shit. Be quiet. This dude is just a skeptic, probably getting... Hold on, I'm looking this dude up. I think he's probably like some sort of a oil guy. I can't do it. Not good enough. Not economically feasible. Go fuck yourself. Economics.
Follow the rich white man.
Okay, this is from NASA from 2 years ago. Still staying on this topic of climate, our planet, our home, an Earth Day perspective. They haven't released one for this year, so I figured I'd use this one from 2 years ago.
The third rock, the blue marble, Earth, home. Every person, place, or thing we know, everything we do, every memory we make, it's here on this pale blue dot. It's just one rocky planet in one solar system in one galaxy among billions. Even as we explore space, we study our home planet. We see it like no one else. An expansive ecosystem. The vegetation, the air, the water, the ice. Our data improves the way we grow food and how we manage the land we cultivate. NASA has over 20 satellites, measuring the height of oceans and inland waters, clouds and precipitation, carbon dioxide, and much more. For decades, our data has tracked how all these Earth systems interact. From above, we see the connections. Cities transition into farmlands. Tributaries flow into rivers, into the sea. Winds move clouds around the planet. Beyond these observations, NASA's ability to model and anticipate how the planet is changing helps communities around the world prepare.
The thing about that guy before, who was being very skeptical about microreactors, I'm sick of people being skeptical about solutions that are not coal or oil or methane, like, right? Like, don't talk to me unless you have better solutions than those, right? Because we can't use wind and solar and water everywhere, right? There's just not enough big rivers and sunny days and windy spots for it, right? It's great for plenty of places, and the more that we get the infrastructure set up, the better. But we have to accept that we still have more energy needs, and we can't be filling them up with fucking natural gas, which requires fracking and a bunch of other garbage and still emits a bunch of fucking carbon into the atmosphere. We can't be using coal. We can't be using, you know, any of these other fucking stupid things. You know what I'm saying? Anyways.
We see our changing planet. Hurricanes, volcanoes, fires. And we see the impacts of humans. Melting ice, rising temperatures. Earth's climate has changed and is still changing. Our data gives us the understanding to adapt and to protect our home planet in new ways. Our electric flight technologies will reduce fuel and save energy. We will make cleaner air travel possible. By understanding our changing world, we improve lives and safeguard our future. the future of our little rock in the universe, our Earth, our home.
Okay, just wanted to remind everybody of things like that. Just, just sort of, the importance of having not SpaceX or, others taking over space. All right, what's next? Okay, this is from 5 hours ago from 60 Minutes. The Vanishing Wild. This is from the 60 Minutes archives. I believe this is from like 10 years ago. We're just going to watch a part of it.
"60 Minutes Rewind."
In what year will the human population grow too large?
I take it back. This is from last year.
For the Earth to...
I swear to God, late stage capitalism is turning everybody into a grind set entrepreneur. You gotta work 7 jobs. You have to have 16 gigs all going at this. So the combination of that and the environment, the stage that it's in right now is bleak. Oh, look there's
percent.
Soul doesn't seem to have a whole lot of time left on this planet, so I think it's easy for him to have a pretty gloomy attitude about this. But for those of us who are under 90, we still have some time left on this earth. So I say we try and fix it and make it sustainable for us. But I think it's a little much to be saying it's completely undoable. It's not. It is doable. And I think that he's just resigned himself to this sort of thinking. Okay. Next, we're going to look at this from Climate Atom from a year ago as well. Climate scientist reacts to Jordan Peterson.
Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
He's 53.
Today I want to peer behind the curtain of climate change denial and tease apart an example of how facts and data get distorted. And I want to look at how a single 5-word Jordan Peterson tweet made so many mistakes. I mean, if it wasn't so depressing, it would actually be kind of impressive. I'm Adam, a climate scientist with a PhD from the University of Oxford, sharing what you need to know about climate change. And speaking of what you need to know about climate change, this is what the last 10,000 years of climate change looks like. You can see that global temperatures have remained really pretty stable for most of these thousands of years. That is until the Industrial Revolution about 150 years ago, where temperatures shoot up. But how can we even know what global temperatures look like 10,000 years ago? Wikipedia says that Daniel Gabriel Fahrenheit only invented the precision thermometer 300 years ago. Wow, that's a pretty big coincidence that he was called Fahrenheit. Yeah, I don't think that's a coincidence. Of course. He probably changed his name to match the temperature. No, I think that... Anyway, climate scientists need to use indirect measures of temperature, things like ice cores, tree rings, and ocean sediments that trap this temperature information over the years, and we can now read. Of course, each of these is imperfect. There are going to be big error bars, plus each one only captures what's happening in one specific place. So you can't rely on one single source of this data. You have to combine multiple sources to get an accurate result. And remember that, because it's going to be important later. Don't use single source of data for prehistoric temperatures. Noted. By using detailed measurements from all over the world, carefully combined using the latest techniques, you end up with this record of global temperature change for the last 10,000 years, highlighting just how extreme modern global warming is and how much we're messing up our planet, our home. And speaking of messing things up, let's talk about a tweet from Jordan Peterson.
My God, that's what we need, Schmegley. We need a climate is everything soundshot. Good God, how have I let this go by this whole time? It's unacceptable.
There's no point in you betraying your future self to gratify your present self.
No, you're right.
It's a stupid game.
I'm so stupid.
Which appears to show climate history over 9,500 years. Straight off the bat, this graph is going to look weird because it doesn't look anything like the graph I just showed you. Jordan Peterson asks, anyone object to this graph? Which sounds like a rhetorical question, but it has a very real answer, which is that yes, I and many other climate scientists object to this graph. For many reasons. Firstly, most obviously, and let's be honest, most embarrassingly, the graph ends in 1885. They circle this little bump at the end as if to say, look how tiny recent global warming is, but then they have actually left out all of it.
You're having a bad day, Morbius. Don't do that. Have a good day. Have a good day with all of us.
Recent global warming. For context, this is what this graph would look like if it ended today. But speaking...
What do you want, Morbius? You want the moon? I'm gonna lasso it down and bring it down here for you.
The end of the graph, this dataset that this graph is made from actually ended in 1855. So either they're lying on the axis or they've just made a typo. And I don't actually know which is a bigger fail. But even once you take into account that this graph leaves off all of modern global warming, you can see that something's not quite right. What's with all these spikes that are ominously circled in Microsoft Paint? Why weren't they in the dataset that I showed you earlier? Well, this graph from Jordan Peterson is taken from a single core of ice from a single location in Greenland. And remember when I said to you earlier, so you can't rely on one single source of this data. These sharp peaks and valleys don't mean anything when you're looking at a single ice core because there's just so much scientific uncertainty. In fact, the scientists who are responsible for putting together the temperature record over the past thousands of years put out a paper explicitly saying that there's no evidence for sharp rises or decreases in temperature when you look at Earth as a whole. Well, apart from the temperature spike that we've been causing for the past century or so.
Yeah. Has Jordo ever been in the chat? You mean Jordan B. Peterson? No, I don't believe I've ever seen the Jordan B. Peterson in this chat. Or Cenk. Or Cenk Huger. Neither of them have ever shown up. I don't think I'm big enough for them to care. Okay, we're gonna move on here. We got some other stuff to cover in the world, starting with this. Oh. Gotta get an earworm out of your head. That sounds problematic. Here's something else that's problematic. This is from 13 hours ago, where 2 Japan Navy helicopters crashed during a military exercise.
Two Japanese Navy helicopters crashed into the sea during a training exercise. That's according to Japanese Defense Minister Minoru Kihara on Sunday. He added that at least one of the 8 crew members on board was killed.
The flight recorders of both aircrafts were found and recovered in close proximity to one another. On this basis, we will investigate the cause of the crash, including the possibility that the 2 aircrafts collided.
The 2 SH-60 patrol helicopters were conducting anti-submarine exercises on Saturday night near Torishima in the remote Izu Island group off the southern coast of central Japan. Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Force, or MSDF, and Coast Guard are searching for the remaining 7 crew members.
Jordan B shouldn't be allowed here. Totally. But I think that everybody's talking about a fake Jordan B. Peterson, and also a fake Cenk Uygur, who hang out in leftist chats and say ridiculous things, but in an ironical sort of way. Not the real Jordan or Cenk. What's next? Yes, okay. Sorry, chat, I got distracted looking at looking at my YouTube feed. Why am I doing that while we're here together? It's silly. Is that the only news that I have outside of the Middle East right now? Really? Okay. Just one more about
One
this.
crew member has died after 2 Japanese military helicopters crashed late Saturday, according to the country's defense minister. Officials say 7 other members remain unaccounted for, but the flight recorders of both helicopters have been recovered. According to Japan's defense minister, the recorders were found in close proximity, raising the possibility the 2 helicopters collided mid-air. The units were conducting anti-submarine exercises off the coast of southern Japan at the time of the incident. A search is ongoing for the other crew members, and Japan's helicopter training flights have been suspended indefinitely.
Okay. That's all the news we have on that. And so we are going to move on to the Middle East. Okay, this is from 11 hours ago, Al Jazeera English. The U.S. plans to sanction Israeli army unit for committing human rights violations. So you heard me correctly, Chad. You're not losing your mind. We're sanctioning the Israeli army, but just one unit, right, for committing human rights violations. Just a very specific group of people. And I don't even know what that would entail, right? What would that do exactly? I don't understand it, and you probably don't either. So let's try and wrap our heads around this in this next video.
After the worst violence in the occupied West Bank in weeks, a U.S. plan to sanction one Israeli battalion, based on State Department findings months old for crimes now years old. Palestine's foreign ministry says the Americans are not serious about holding Israel to account.
Sanctions always are welcome, but this should not be an attempt to whitewash the Israeli army. All the Israeli army and the Israeli government are committing war crimes, crimes against humanity, and the crime of genocide in Palestine. Yeah, and this should not be a whitewash for the Israeli army. We believe that if the Americans are serious, they should stop the complicity in the genocide in Gaza.
The unit in question, the Netza Yehuda battalion.
And that's going to be tough because the House just passed a bill giving them, was it 20 million? I think it's 20, somewhere between 20 and 25 billion dollars. Did I say million? Billion. That's good. So it's going to be tough unless the Senate decides to actually stop it, which I'd love to see. But yeah.
The ultra-Orthodox soldiers.
The thing is, what are they going to do? They're going to kill their American bank accounts? What? What? And then we're going to give Israel $20 billion, right? So it's weird because then they could just God.
They have limited interaction with female troops, are allowed more time to pray and continue religious studies in keeping with conservative beliefs. linked to incidents of torture and abuse in the occupied West Bank, most notably in 2022, when 80-year-old Palestinian American Omar Assad died in custody. He was detained, handcuffed, blindfolded, and abandoned in near-freezing conditions. The Netzah Yehuda were relocated to the Golan Heights later that year and are currently in Gaza. Even if the unit is disbanded, Israel's national security minister has said he will absorb the soldiers into the ranks of the police. But 25 other
So it's going to be completely
battalions will remain deployed across the occupied West Bank. This week, Israeli forces subjected Palestinians in the Tulkarem refugee camp to levels of destruction not seen since the Second Intifada 20 years ago. While Israel's government is furious that its biggest benefactor would sanction its military, for Palestinians here, it is political theater.
The Americans are lying. I say to Biden and the Americans, enough with this satire. You talk about democracy and human rights, while human rights are violated using US money and weapons.
It's nonsense. If the US wanted to sanction them, they wouldn't have planted them like weeds among us.
US President Joe Biden's commitment to one side of this conflict remains clear. Despite numerous reports of human rights violations since the war on Gaza began, his administration has expanded Israel's weapons stockpile, and just days ago vetoed a Palestinian bid for recognition as a full member state at the UN. The best case scenario...
Basically doing everything we could do right now to say fuck you to Palestinians. And to give the green light to Israel to continue doing what it's been doing. There's been 0 red lines drawn. There hasn't even been a line drawn in the fucking sand. Just a theoretical line doesn't exist. Okay, what the fuck? What's next? Okay, we're gonna actually go and talk about some stuff. I don't know why I have it in this order. But we're gonna go back to the West real quick to talk about protests in London, I believe it was. This is a Channel 4 News piece from 10 hours ago where calls for a Met police chief to resign over anti-Semitism campaigner incident.
Government account for the crimes that they're
On Saturday, the 13th of April, like many Saturdays before it, there was a pro-Palestinian march in central London. At some point, the chief executive of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism had an exchange with a Metropolitan Police officer.
You are quite openly Jewish. This is a pro-Palestinian march. I'm not accusing you of anything, but I'm worried about the reaction to your presence.
Eventually, the officer says that Gideon Falter is breaching the peace. Mr. Falter released a statement saying that he and his group just wanted to walk through London and didn't engage with any protesters. Now further footage has emerged, showing Mr. Falter wanting to walk into the crowd and the police officer describing it as antagonistic.
To move from the pavement right into the middle of the pro-Palestinian march, which is why I asked you to go away. So I can already see what your mindset is, sir.
My mindset?
Yeah, I'm trying not to be too disingenuous with this.
My mindset is that I'm Jewish in London. And
Please don't be too disingenuous, sir.
I'm not being disingenuous. I can walk wherever the hell I want. If I want to walk to that pavement, that's what I'm going to do.
So
but
if you
then
can
you
stay there,
have to arrest me because I'm walking.
I'd rather not do that.
In response to this video, the group says Mr. Falter was exercising his right to walk around London as an openly Jewish person, later adding, whatever concerns the police may say they had about Mr. Falter's route, direction, gait, height or hairstyle, what worried them above all was that he was, inverted commas, openly Jewish.
Okay, now, the thing about this for me that is most frustrating is that, and, you know, I think is part of the reason, is the reasoning for why this is happening, right? Because Israel and the media and others have continued to conflate the state of Israel with all Jewish people, right? And this idiot, this police officer, he doesn't know any better, and so he sees this guy being Jewish as being outwardly antagonistic to. Now maybe he did have intentions that were antagonistic, but my point is that I think that because of that conflation that's been going on, that's inaccurate and anti-Semitic, frankly, this guy thinks, and to some degree, rightly, because everybody keeps telling him so, right? You know, that he represents Israel just for being Jewish, right? Now, that guy may very well have been there to cause problems. I honestly don't know. The amount of footage from it is very, very sparse. So I really couldn't quite say one way or the other. But I don't think that's the important part of this, honestly, right? Because it is kind of anti-Semitic, right? But the fact is because of the way it's been framed, right? This guy who's, you know, is a fucking police officer, but I think we can expect that, you know, most police officers aren't necessarily fucking geniuses who are focused in on global politics to a, you know, some sort of serious level, right? How is he going to be able to distinguish this shit when people keep telling it this way, framing things in this way, and it muddies the waters, and it causes things like this that, you know. Anyway, let's look at this from 11 hours ago, where the what's this guy's name? Sultan Khamenei, I think it's a Sultan. Hold on, I have to look this up. I forget. I think he's Sultan Khamenei. Ali Khamenei, Supreme Leader of Iran, spoke, and this is Reuters from 11 hours ago, where he claims that Iran demonstrated power against Israel.
The
other side might discuss how many Iranian rockets were launched and how many hit their targets, and this is a secondary matter. The principal matter is that Iran and its armed forces have displayed their power and determination in an important international arena. This display of force has happened. And that is what matters. It is what bothered people who were upset by the strike. Okay. Fact is the Ayatollah. Thank you. Yes, Ayatollah. That's the word. I don't know. Why did I want to go with Sultan? I don't know why. That's my bad. It's my bad, chat. Thank you for the correction. Pitchforks. Let's move on to this one from NBC 2 days ago, where Gazan civilians were apparently bombed while sheltering in another UN school. I don't know how many times we've heard stories, like too many of these stories, right? Where Israel is not only attacking schools, but UN schools. And either would be bad, but it just seems like another level of insanity every time they do something like this. So let's watch this. Somehow I missed this. NBC News filmed the damage caused by an Israeli airstrike that hit a UN school where displaced civilians were sheltering in North Gaza. I don't know what happened. They shelled us. It's a school full of children and women. We are innocent civilians moving from one place to another. You're waiting for the flour and tomatoes to eat. What have we done wrong? We are civilians. In sections of the video, too disturbing to show, survivors tried to identify the victims from burned body parts blasted across the area.
يما مش قادرة يا ربي مش قادرة انكسر ظهري يما انكسر ظهري يما انكسر ظهري يا حبيبتي رد علي يا حبيبتي رد علي يما لا 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 لا
Okay. Another unnecessary and clear violation of international law. A strike carried out by Israel on Palestinian civilians and UN infrastructure. This next one is also equally frustrating, I would say. It's from 13 hours ago, where apparently Israel has carried out a deadly raid in Tulkarm, which is in the West Bank. Hold on, I gotta do something here real quick. There we go. Okay, fixed it. Come on, there we go. Drone footage shows the destruction left behind in the West Bank after a 2-day siege on the West. After 2-day siege by Israeli forces. The raid began near the Palestinian city of Tulkarm, where gunfire was reportedly exchanged between Israeli forces and armed fighters. The next day, residents gathered to clear debris and assess the damage. Alright, what's next? Alright, we have more footage of what happened. Graphic warning. Israeli forces kill more Palestinians in West Bank.
Israeli forces killed more than a dozen Palestinians during an extended raid in the West Bank, according to Palestinian authorities on Saturday. It's one of the occupied area's heaviest casualties in months amid a recent surge in violence. The Israeli army released videos said to show its operations during the raid, which began in the early hours of Friday in the Nur Shams area near the flashpoint city of Tulkarm. It said a number of militants were killed or arrested during the raid, with at least 4 Israeli soldiers wounded. Reuters was not able to independently confirm the date or location of the footage. Bursts of gunfire could be heard in Nur Shams as the fighting went on well into Saturday. It's an area housing refugees and their descendants from the 1948 war that accompanied the creation of the State of Israel. This resident described the situation there as Gaza number 2, saying the camp was destroyed and uninhabitable.
For fuck's sake.
The war in Gaza has overshadowed continuing violence in the West Bank. It includes regular Israeli army raids on areas said to harbor militant groups, rampages by Jewish settlers in Palestinian villages, and
this shit is fucked. Just completely fucked. It really does seem like they're just switching focus over to West Bank now. And it's horrifying. Not that they've been spared this whole time, but from blasts like that, there's been less of that, right? It's been mostly arrests, extrajudicial sort of stuff like that. There's definitely been killings and settler violence. But this is IDF.
attacks by Palestinians on Israelis. But the conflict there stepped up about a week ago after an Israeli teenager went missing in the West Bank, according to Israeli authorities. As people searched for the boy overnight, Jewish settlers entered a nearby Palestinian village and set houses and cars ablaze. His body was discovered the next day in what Israel said was a suspected militant attack. The U.S. State Department condemned the killing of the Israeli teen, but also said it was increasingly concerned by violence against Palestinians in the West Bank.
Look, I have a face, okay? I can say that with certainty at this moment. I do, in fact, have a face. It's just, you know, I need the helmet for space purposes.
Separately, on Saturday, Palestinian officials said an ambulance driver was killed by Israeli gunfire as he was making his way to people injured during a settler attack on the village of Al-Sawiya. While hundreds of Palestinians marched in a funeral procession for two men said to be killed during another attack by settlers on Monday on a village called Akraba.
Okay. Alright, moving along. What's next? Okay, we just have a couple more videos. First, this is more drone footage after the Israeli raid in the West Bank, and then the one after that is footage of a funeral, because as it turns out 14 Palestinians were killed in this raid.
طبعا الاضراب على تعاطف مع اهلنا في الشمال، واحنا بيعز علينا كل شهيد وكل طفل بسقط.
Shit. My bad, chat. Started speaking Arabic. I was not prepared. The strike is sympathy for people in the north. Wait, what? I'm not sure what that's in context to. It feels difficult for every martyr and every child who falls. What is required for us that we sympathize, because believers are brothers. What happened in the north is a little thing in front of what happened in Gaza. In Gaza, there are 34,000 martyrs or more, other than the missing, and we say thanks be to God, Lord of all worlds. Okay, Belle. Enough God stuff. Oh, it's a helmet. How did you not notice it was a helmet this whole time? Good God. I honestly thought it was obvious. What have you been watching this in? Have you been watching this in 1080p? Please tell me you're watching this at the max resolution. Wah. You bought a banana cream pie yesterday. Oh, you almost did, but you didn't. Yeah, I don't know if that was the best life choice. Just fucking with you. All right, we're moving on. Enough jokes. Yeah, onto this one. This is from the funeral in the West Bank after 14 Palestinians were killed by the IDF. People are pissed, and it's not shocking at all. This kind of shit is just going to continue to cause more fucking problems. I don't understand why Israel won't just fucking stop. Just about everybody but the United States has told them to stop. There's a couple of other outliers in there, but it's It should have already been stopped months and months and months ago. Even if you're willing to say that somehow some of the strikes were to some degree justified because of what Hamas did on October 7th, I mean, it should have been done months and months and months and months ago. I mean, beyond the actual apartheid. If we're just going to play the game of everybody else and say that history started on October 7th and blah, 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 you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's still gone above and beyond anything that's acceptable. Why isn't this over yet? Why isn't this over yet, chat? What the fuck is going on? Seriously, I'm just questioning so many things right now. It's very frustrating. Okay, I'm gonna pull it together. We don't have too much to go, but we do have some frustrating ones on the way there. This is from 17 hours ago, where bodies found in bags marked in Hebrew at a destroyed Nasser hospital were found in we're just gonna let them explain it. Here's Al Jazeera. You ate 150
we
grams.
Start in southern Gaza, where Palestine
150 grams of cheese. That's impressive.
It's science. Emergency services have uncovered a mass grave in Khan Yunis. At least 180 bodies have so far been found buried inside the city's Nasser medical complex. The Palestinian Civil Defense says it's searching for more bodies. The Israeli military withdrew from Khan Yunis on April the 7th. Much of the city is now in ruins after months of relentless Israeli bombing and heavy fighting. Let's get more.
Is 150 grams a lot? It is a lot of cheese, yes. 150 grams is, let me think, it's like a half a pound. No, it's like a third of a pound. It's like a third of a pound of cheese. It's a great deal of cheese.
This now with Hani Mahmoud. He joins us from Khan Yunis itself. And I understand, Hani, you're at the site there. Take us through what must be a very grim scene there first.
Yes, Sammy, very horrific scene right now. And the Israeli military withdrew from Nasser Hospital on April 7th, leaving trails of destruction to all signs of life inside the complex itself, severely damaging all the facilities. But what's more shocking right now, the discovery of this massive grave, the largest one so far in the city of Khan Yunis, right here at the courtyard, the southern part of the courtyard of the hospital, where for the past 3 days, civil defense crew members and paramedics have retrieved 180 bodies of people who were buried in this massive grave by the Israeli military.
Jesus fucking
These are the
Christ.
people. The bodies are removed.
It's just, it is a fucking, it is atrocity after atrocity that Israel is committing, and it is disgusting. I am so sick of seeing this shit. When will it stop, chat? When will this shit stop? Can you explain that to me? When? A mass grave. We've been talking about the numbers not being accurate, right? To one degree or another. You know, on one side, people are saying, oh, they're too high. You can't trust the Palestinian Health Authority. On the other side, on our side, we're saying, well, there's how many thousands of missing people? How many people buried under the rubble? We weren't even, me personally, I wasn't counting for mass graves. Were you? I wasn't, you know? That wasn't something that I had factored into the equation on how many people might be dead that we don't know about. And it's, this is one of those things that, it's just, this kind of shit is unforgivable. Like, obviously, like, everything they're doing down there is unforgivable, but this, This just rises to this level of just atrocities that I hate being the atrocity quantifier. This is, for fuck's sake, moving on. Oh, that's so depressing. You don't speak Chinese. Is it a third of a pound? Was I right about my guess? Because I was just trying to do the math in my head really, really quickly from 150 grams without a calculator or even a piece of paper. I just tried to do it in my head and move on to the news. If I was close, I'm glad to hear that. I just really threw an approximation out there. Israeli soldiers share abusive videos mocking destruction of Gaza online. Well, more stuff to flip tables over. This is from 14 hours ago, out of France 24. Table flip.
Videos like these are among hundreds filmed by members of the Israeli armed forces and posted on the internet. Palestinians are mocked. Destruction is a celebration. And launching artillery is an opportunity to have a laugh.
This is so fucked.
Yet more exhibit possessions taken from homes in Gaza, from watches to lingerie. Former soldier Ori Gavati works for an organization that campaigns against negligence in the armed forces. He says the behavior in these clips comes from the rise of the far right in Israel.
Nationalist, ultra-nationalist ideas that are spread throughout the military. Of course, it means that there are more commanders in the military that actually support destruction, support working from a place of revenge. Those are things that we haven't seen in the past.
The Israel Defense Forces say they've called their soldiers to order and have sanctioned some of them without saying how many.
There is destruction, but it's an army of the people. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers have operated in Gaza since October the 7th. We can't 100% avoid undisciplined behavior.
More than 6 months after the start of the war, videos like these continue to appear.
Oh, I was exactly right? Oh, okay. Great. That makes me feel good about myself. It was genuinely, it was all brain. It was all brain, no calc. And it wasn't even, it was like an intuitive mathematics. I didn't even really try to do it. I was like, what is that, like a third? Pure luck, probably. Okay, let's move along to this next one, which is probably deserving of table flips. Because this is more of what I've been yelling about not happening, please. And yet, Israel continues. This is from 13 hours ago, where apparently Israeli airstrikes on Rafah in southern Gaza killed 22, mostly children. More airstrikes on Rafah. Completely unacceptable. It's like shooting fish in a barrel, but instead of fish, it's children. Oh, that comparison makes me sick. Sick to my fucking stomach. Shit is unreal. Yeah, Israel's literally bombing the refugee camp that it created. It created it by telling everyone to go there. Didn't just happen. It wasn't even happenstance. It was literal. They literally went there and said, "I got to earn your table." Me? I'm not trying to earn a table. I'm saying Israel deserves their tables flipped because of this bullshit. I don't want you to be upset. You know, that's not my intention. It's just, yeah, I feel like anybody be upset by that shit. This is our penultimate video. This is from 16 hours ago out of France 24, where according to them and Oxfam, which is, I believe, a human rights organization, U.S. risks complicity in approving military aid for Israel. Yes, we do. I would argue we might already.
More reaction to that bill and an update on the humanitarian situation in Gaza. We can cross to Bushra Khalidi, the West Bank policy lead for Oxfam. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And I do want to start by asking you about this new U.S. aid package for Israel. It does include some aid for Gaza. What do you think of it?
I mean, the U.S. has cut $258 million for UNRWA. The level of devastation we're seeing in Gaza, the level of trauma, the level of starvation, where we have an entire civilian population at the brink of famine. There's very likely already pocket likes of famine in the north, because in order to have a famine declaration, you already need to have famine-like conditions to be able to make such a declaration, which has not yet been made, but has been warned that by May, if the situation does not improve, it's very likely that the IPC would be declaring famine in the north in Gaza. And I mean, to be selling arms to a government, any government or any party, and transferring lethal weapons that have caused the killing of almost 15,000 children. Yesterday alone, 14 children were killed in one airstrike in Rafah. And now with the Rafah military incursion that, keeps on being threatened by the Israeli authorities and the IDF, I mean, what more? When does this stop? When does this onslaught, this carnage against an entire civilian population that, let me remind you, is trapped? They have nowhere to go. And they have no access to water. They have no access to electricity. They have no access to shelter. There's not enough humanitarian workers. It would take years to remove the rubble alone out of Gaza because of the level of devastation from the Israeli bombardment in the last 6 months. And to continue arming Israel after an ICJ decision that finds that there's a plausible risk of genocide, and a United Nations Security Council resolution that calls for an immediate and sustained ceasefire, and yet to continue arming Israel, from our opinion, risks complicity.
I think it goes beyond risking complicity, right? Oh, somebody in chat saying the same thing. Yeah, I think in this case, we've already been complicit, and further aid would solidify it, if anything. Now, you could maybe make the argument, because I'm trying to think of what time exactly the ICJ ruling came down and when the last aid shipment was, but there was also multiple shipments that were smaller, that weren't approved by Congress, that were approved just by Joe Biden, if I'm not mistaken, and or was it just the defense? I can't remember exactly how that one worked out, but the point is that some digging may need to be done to even make a case against complicity, right? Because at this point, it just genuinely seems like even without this, there's a case to be made for complicity. By the way, Afroponics, I don't know anything about Cosme, but speaking of Discord, you happen to be the only person in our Discord currently who has not yet accepted the rules, and therefore do not have access to the server. So you're in it, but you're not really in it. And I urge you to accept the rules in the rules channel so you can get access to the rest of the server, where you can, in fact, stream share movies. I would say the best way to do that, though, is by using an app like a VLC or something, because streaming, there's issues with trying to stream, what's it called? Like on Netflix or Hulu or any of these other sorts of streaming services, as they've put in a bunch of screen cap blockers in there lately. Soul Life? Too soon, pal. Too soon. Okay. This is, this last video is gonna sort of solidify our day here of Earth-related stuff with a video done by scientists reenacting what might happen when the climate finally messes up the Earth in entirety.
How does he keep making every movie more confusing?
All right, guys. People are dying right now. There's like toxins in the air, pollution. People are talking. We need y'all help right now.
Oh my God.
It wasn't that shoe that
And
was
the
standing
monkey.
up there.
I was so
What are y'all talking about? Hey, I just said people are dying right now.
Like there's red particles falling from the sky.
Yes.
And like people are just like falling over.
Exactly.
Right. Oh, that's early. That is pretty early. I thought it was like 45 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
45. Wait, 45. What are y'all talking about? My family's dying right now. Come on, please.
That's why he cares.
No, they only care about
You didn't read that article in 1999 where it said if we don't stop doing it to the climate, people are gonna die?
I mean, no,
I gotta print it out right here. Hey, read it now. Read it now. What I hear is from 2005. What I hear is from 2015. And then we wrote a whole book. We wasted our time in 2022. What the fuck? Y'all didn't read none of that, huh? Yeah, it's too late now. You know when you can help? You know when you can help? In 1999 when I wrote the article. Well, that's the past. This is now. Carbon footprint too big. No, ozone layer's being depleted. Sorry, guys. Those ice caps are gone, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no more animals.
No.
Oceans are gone. Yeah, you guys fucked up this time.
You know the sky is red.
Oh, actually, no lie. I have a plan. What? Yeah, cool.
We made these masks. We now we're fighting wars. We made these masks for us and our family, but y'all didn't fund them, so we did it with our own money. This is all we can make.
Okay, we'll make it. Give us some more money.
We'll take that. So give it to us in about 10 minutes and we'll start making them.
Okay, cool.
But too much y'all be dead in like 4 seconds.
4 seconds? What are you talking about?
Yeah, because the toxins are coming through the...
Okay, give us the mask. Give us the mask. Come on.
Hey, those laws that y'all making at the last second, those were good, man. Good shit.
Give us the mask.
It's above us. It's above us.
Oh, God. Oh, God, shit is fucked up. I just figured I'd lighten it up at the end here. Just to, have a quick laugh together with some silliness. Thankfully, not a real situation. It is, in fact, a parody and a joke. But, if things do get real bad... I'm not even gonna finish that sentence. Alright, actually, before we end the stream, I have one more thing for us to look at. Anyway. Yeah, no. Obviously, what's his face is fucking creepy, right? But that movie is fucking amazing, first off. Secondly, that idea, you haven't seen that movie. That's from it's from 25 years ago. Yeah, Kevin Spacey is a gross dude, okay? But the movie itself is amazing. And we can't hate little Osment over there just for Kevin Spacey. But the idea of the movie is actually the important part, right? And I want you to all take this into your own thinking in your own lives, as well as you know, maybe think about how you might tell people about this stream and how it might affect things if they also told 3 people, and those 3 people told 3 people. Just saying. We could get this channel monetized real quick. I'm just fucking with you, chat. Anyway, pay it forward. Well, we got through another Sunday Funday, chat. Thankfully, we have each other to get through it. The Earth needs our help. We must do everything we can to save it. But that's it for me today. Till I see you next time. You stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. It's too early. My God. I just realized I was nearly the same age as Haley Joel Osment when that movie came out. I remember watching it with my dad in theaters. Fuck, where did I put this? There it is. Ah. Here we are. Oh shit, my head's in the way. There, that's better. These are your galactic producers. All of these individuals in front of you have made the right choices in life, leading them to all sorts of fantastic space benefits. Remember these names, folks.